Hamilton blasts one. There she goes. Goodbye.
He shoots this one out to right field. Hamilton giving chase. Curls around near the wall. Reaches up. And he makes another spectacular play.
Josh Hamilton was unequivocally one of the most talented players in his era, possessing that sweet lefty swing with sneaky speed and a laser for an arm. Josh put on a show during the 2008 Home Run Derby, amassing 28 bombs in the round, which still stands to date as the all-time record, while clocking one of the biggest hits in Rangers franchise history. He was even tagged as only the second player ever, with of course Barry Bonds, to be intentionally walked with the bases loaded. However, his stardom was anything but linear, as he dealt with a great deal of addiction. With that said, let's delve into it. Josh Hamilton was born on May 21, 1981, in Raleigh, North Carolina. In his early teenage years and into high school, his talent permeated throughout the country as scouts and coaches started to tout him as a potential major leaguer. Josh was a two-way player at Athens Drive High School, and a lethal one at that, as he amassed a .529 average with 13 bombs. While on the mound, he was flinging the baseball upwards of 97 miles per hour. And that laser of an arm moonlighted in the outfield as he threw out 3 base runners his senior year, while in totality racked up 9 outfield assists in his high school career. Scouts were flooding his games during this time, with him undoubtedly poised to be the top pick. However, the only trepidation pertaining to scooping him first overall was, well, it was whether or not he was going to be an outfielder or a pitcher, because, as you know, there was no such thing as a two-way major league player back then. You had to hunker down and choose just one. Man.
He's an outstanding hitter. He is an outstanding pitcher. I talked to one scout who said, are we looking at a two-way player? Maybe.
The Tampa Ray Devil Rays ended up coming to a summation to peg him as an outfielder, drafting him first overall in the 1999 draft, which resulted in signing him to a $4 million pact. Now, as y'all know, the first overall pick in anything, whether it be the NFL, NBA, MLB, or hell, during middle school recess, breeds pressure. However, the fact the Rays during the 90s were one of the most putrid, decrepit squads, only surpassing the 500 mark a couple of years, just heightened and amplified said pressure on Josh, because fans of Tampa, all 27 of them, truly viewed him as the savior of their franchise. The little to no adversity pertaining to his professional life remained status quo, as Josh treated single A like it was beneath him, hitting .312, rocking 10 over the fence, and swiped 8 bags. Oh, and he was still just an 18-year-old. The clamoring from those 27 humans for Josh just persisted as the Rays continued their losing ways, tallying 93 of them and finishing in the cellar of the AL East. Although he was not promoted to the show, they did reward him with a trip to Single A, and he reciprocated the reward with yet another stellar campaign as still just a teenager. Josh accumulated a .303 average, 13 bombs, and yet another double-digit stolen base season, swiping 14 of them. Those numbers resulted in him becoming a starter in the Futures game, which, if you're not privy to, is hosted every season to highlight and illuminate all the brightest young stars and top prospects who have yet to make it to the show. It's a prestigious event, no question. So far, in summation, I think we can agree Josh's rise to stardom has been a complete and utter ascension. However, the following year it would come to a sad halt, as a life-changing moment for him changed that trajectory. Following one of the final spring training games in 2001, Josh and his parents were heading back home on their usual route around 4 o'clock when they were T-boned by a speeding dump truck who compounded the speeding by running a red light. Although Josh was not critically injured, unfortunately his parents were, with them needing to head back home to Carolina for treatment. It was the first time in his 19 years where he and his parents were not together. Between the loneliness without his parents and not being capable of being on the field due to the minor injuries he did sustain, he couldn't handle it. He broke. He just broke, man. Josh resorted to not only abusing the painkillers he was prescribed for his back, but also made his way to the tattoo parlor multiple times a week to numb himself. It was truly a dire situation for Josh, to put it mildly, when all his life to that point was anything but. Josh was still in battle, dealing with his struggles, so unfortunately, he took it up a notch, resorting to alcohol and cocaine. With the season upon him, he was obviously in no position to lace them up, even with his back healed up, so, to his credit, he not only saw a sports psychologist unsolicited, but also checked himself into rehab. He lauded the Rays for their unwavering support for him, even giving him a chance to take the year off if he wanted. However, Josh declined, eagerly wanting to get back on the diamond, as he felt it was his best option to become the man he wanted to become again. It was his solace as well, which he so desperately needed. The Rays obliged, and after just a couple weeks of rehab, he got back on the diamond, finishing the season where he posted his worst year of his life, with an OPS under 700 and a .210 average. But obviously you understand why, and candidly, at this moment his numbers were just truly trivial, with the focus squarely on getting Josh back from hell. Now, with that said, as you all know, addiction is an absolute beast and something you do not conquer quickly. You do not tame your battle with addiction in just 2 weeks. So, unfortunately, despite playing in over 59 games and hitting 300 during the 2002 Single-A season, he relapsed yet again. However, in the midst of his struggles, he met a human that would be absolutely pertinent to his eventual sobriety and overall happiness as a man. Just to amplify, man, he was not cognizant of it yet, but this man he came across was his lifeline, as Josh himself highlights later in his career. Businessman Michael Chadwick was able to get through to him like nobody to that point could. They became inseparable. Josh would even end up marrying Chadwick's daughter Katie, and they have 3 kids together. As much as Chadwick helped, it wasn't enough for Josh to become completely clean just yet, unfortunately. Prior to the 2003 season, just as it seemingly looked like Josh was going to play a full minor league season, he failed a drug test, resulting in him eventually just taking the full year off to clear his mind and try to get sober. Josh would continue to talk to Chadwick weekly while continuing his therapy sessions and working out to stay in baseball shape to ramp up for next season, which he still had eyes on. However, once again he slipped up as he failed yet another drug test in spring training, for which MLB proceeded to axe Hamilton for the entire season. Fast forwarding to the beginning of spring training for the 2005 season, for yet another consecutive season he missed every game. However, this time it was not for drug use. Josh was arrested in February for taking a hammer to a friend's truck whom he had been in an argument with. He was released in the middle of the summer with ostensibly ample time to ramp up and get back on the field. However, the Rays had had enough and cut bait. They released him after much trepidation from ownership, as he was touted to be their savior and pull that dreg of a franchise out of the mud. Once Josh returned home, Katie slapped the dreaded papers on the dining room table, divorcing Josh. Unfortunately, as it may sound like deja vu, Josh turned to drugs to try to find some semblance of solace after not playing a full season for over 4 years at this point. This script may seem out of a nightmare, but it's reality. Josh Hamilton had ostensibly never had a bad day in his life for 19 years. He was destined for stardom with his gaudy high school numbers and first couple of professional seasons. He had the bat, the arm, the speed, and the flair to take over a franchise. The Rays agreed, which is why they grabbed him first overall. But since the seemingly innocuous ride home from spring training in 2001, in which he had ridden on hundreds of occasions, this ride home would forever alter his life. After being let go by Tampa and his wife, he ended up staying with his grandma, who had staunch policies pertaining to chores around the house, and 2 huge stipulations: no drugs, no alcohol, or you're out the door. He obliged and stayed clean for months. He found solace in reading the Bible, which he credits for giving him peace he otherwise could not find. At this point, it has been a couple of months of ostensibly no drug or alcohol use, which prompted Josh to try and latch onto a squad. He reached out to manager Roy Silver of the Devil Rays at the time to plead for another chance to crack the roster. Roy conceded, but once again, Josh had stipulations, this time in the form of janitorial duties and field work before and after use of them. From June of 06 to spring training of 07, he replicated that tedious cycle of working out and cleaning up damn near every day to try and prove to himself and the teams he can play in the show. Silver lauded his efforts and went to bat for him for the Rays to keep it. However, he was yet again let go by Tampa, but quickly scooped up by the Cubs, who later that week flipped him to the Reds for $100,000. Josh seemingly found a home in Cincy, where he was given his seemingly last chance to prove himself in the league by not only his play, but also his discipline off the field pertaining to drugs, with MLB giving Hamilton 3 tests a week. At 26 years old, after unfathomable trials and tribulations, Josh Hamilton made his MLB debut on April 2nd, 2007 as a pinch hit and was greeted with a rousing ovation from the Cincy faithful.
Well, we're going to see Josh Hamilton make his major league debut. The crowd now just getting aware of it, and they're now starting to stand and cheer. But what a moment this has to be for this young man.
He proceeded to absolutely cork the ball into left, but was robbed of his first base knock in the show. There were some hiccups following his first AB as he went 1 for 13, but after a few injuries that plagued the Reds, Josh made his first start on April 10th against Arizona, leading off in center field. He flashed his tantalizing pop right away with his first homer to the pole side. The Reds rewarded him with a start the next day as well, and Josh reciprocated the love with another pole side homer. Josh continued to be a mainstay in the lineup all month, even when some of their big dogs got healthy, and would amass 4 tanks the rest of the way, resulting in Rookie of the Month honors. In totality, he only suited up for 90 games, with a spattering of starts and injuries plaguing him. However, when he was out there, he was more than productive, while showing flashes as to why he was the first overall pick. He posted a .292 average while rolling 19 over the fence. Fast forwarding after the season, he ended up getting shipped out of Cincy. They had plenty of trepidation pertaining to his ability to stay on the field, as I alluded to the litany of games he missed. In hindsight, you could definitely raise the question if they gave up on him a bit too early. However, they did only acquire him for $100K and flipped him to Texas for Edinson Volquez and Danny Herrera, 2 productive big leaguers. So you could extrapolate that deal and come to the summation that the Reds made out well, essentially trading $100K for 2 players. However, as we'll get to here in a second, you'll see why there was some outrage added in Cincy later on. That next season, Josh Hamilton had seemingly put all his demons to the side and finally flashed all the potential he was lauded for when drafted first overall. He absolutely raked, hitting .304, 32 homers, and his 130 runs driven in and 135 OPS plus both led the league. Not just the NL, folks, the whole league. Josh also put on a historic display in the summer for the Home Run Derby. No hyperbole there. His 28 bombs in the first round was a record, which still stands to this day. Although he didn't take home the trophy, which is unfathomable as twin star Justin Morneau did, all the scuttlebutt afterwards pertaining to the Derby was in Josh's direction. Woo! What a show, huh? His talent started to permeate the baseball world as it looked as though his off-the-field indiscretions had started to dissipate. The 2009 campaign for Josh wasn't as fruitful. The resistance Cincinnati had with Josh came to fruition as he essentially didn't play all season with an abdominal injury. However, unfortunately, that wasn't the worst of it. Josh had relapsed once again, and although he wasn't suspended because he never failed a drug test, the Rangers contemplated cutting bait with him. Despite deep trepidation keeping him, they inevitably decided to give him another shot, and Josh rewarded them with a Hall of Fame caliber 2010 campaign. He began the year as a middling hitter, amassing an .810 OPS through late May. However, he throttled it up after that as he recorded a 23-game hitting streak in June, while in the midst of it amassing an average of .457. He was an absolute monster. Needless to say, he took home June's Player of the Month, and encompassing the entire campaign, he posted an average of .401 against righties, the 19th human to ever do so. He also led ball in, allow me to gather myself, slug, OPS, WAR, while in totality drove 32 baseballs over the fence, knocked in 100, and accumulated a 170 OPS plus. Absurd numbers. He essentially single-handedly propelled Texas to an AL West title. And in the postseason, the Rangers quickly dispatched with the Rays. Ironically, and in a cool little side note, instead of celebrating with champagne as is the universal tactic, the Rangers catered towards Josh's alcoholism and stormed the field with ginger ale. Awesome, man, isn't it? Josh was later quoted saying, "It was the coolest thing for my teammates to understand why I can't be a part of the celebration. Man, oh man, for them to adapt it for me to be a part of it says so much about my teammates." Their magical run continued with Josh being the catalyst, hitting 4 home runs as they advanced to the World Series after dispatching of the big bad Yankees in 6 after New York intentionally walked Hamilton five times in that series. Josh was tapped as the ALCS MVP, amassing said 4 bombs, knocking in 7, and swiping 3 bags as his 5-tool arsenal was on full display. But the Rangers' run came to a screeching halt as Bonds-led Giants smoked them in 5, with Barry taking home the World Series MVP. However, Josh punctuated the unforgettable campaign with a league MVP and a Silver Slugger award. Rays fans' dismay permeated throughout the country as you heard their sighs loud and clear. It appeared as though Josh had finally become the player the Rays knew he could be. However, the following season in 2011 proved to be another abysmal season. Despite not being involved with drugs or alcohol, Josh found himself off the field for a huge chunk, plagued by injuries. Additionally, an absolute tragic event occurred during a game in July when Josh casually tossed a ball over the outfield stands to a fan as he had done thousands of times, which led to firefighter Shannon Stone falling 15 feet over the railing, crashing to his death, attempting to snag the ball for his 6-year-old son. A tragic situation, obviously. On the field, the elite production persisted in 11. Josh was him, hitting just under 300, bopped 25 over the fence, and was an MVP candidate. His play propped the sudden powerhouse Rangers, led by Josh, to back-to-back AL West crowns and proceeded to get back to the World Series versus St. Louis. After 5 games of incredible baseball, the Rangers had St. Louis on the brink, down to their last strike, when David Freese put a charge into a Neftali Feliz fastball into the right field gap over the outstretched arms of Nelson Cruz, resulting in a game-tying triple, plating 2 and sending the game to extras 7-7. Elvis Andrus led off the 10th with a base knock, bringing Josh Hamilton to the dish, and on the first offering, Josh hit a 2-run shot. But the Cardinals would proceed to retire the next 3 Rangers and would carry the momentum in the bottom half as they just refused to die. Down to their last strike once again, David Freese was at it again, clocking a game-winning jack, sending this all-time fall classic to a Game 7 where they would eventually take home the trophy for the Cardinal faithful. Woo! After back-to-back productive, ostensibly sober campaigns, Josh gave in to the devil on his shoulder as he relapsed yet again, though he wasn't suspended as it was before the season and did not test positive. Showing off his immense God-given talent despite his relapse, Josh still managed to hit damn near 400, amassing a .395 average while clocking 9 homers. His offensive prowess in April bled into May as well, as he tied an MLB record, plopping 4 homers in 1 game, and set an AL record with 18 total bases, accounting for 8 of the Rangers' 10 runs against Baltimore. As you may surmise, Josh took home the AL Player of the Month award for both April and May with his .377 average and .127 OPS+. But Josh was still battling demons off the field, resulting in him feeling as though it finally permeated on it, as he pointed to his abysmal July as a result of him quitting cigarettes. However, as I feel like a broken record, his incredible non-stop fluctuation play continued as he proceeded to accumulate 3 MVP votes and finish 5th in the race after a stellar .147 OPS+ campaign. Texas would end up flopping in the postseason, and Josh was set to become a free agent. There was a large sector of clubs invested in Josh's services, as you might surmise, though there were a few that were scared off due to his off-field misgivings. With that said, the influx of interest resulted in Josh garnering a $125 million contract through 5 years from the Angels. From LA's perspective, they were seemingly all in as they had just inked starters C.J. Wilson and Albert Pujols to long-term deals as well. The Angels obviously had extremely high expectations going into the 13 campaign. Unfortunately, it seemed as if the trepidation against the clubs that were out on him was proved correct, as Josh's magical run, despite so many off-field issues, had come to a screeching halt. Despite managing to stay upright all year, playing in over 150 games, his production fell off, with an average of .250 and sub-800 OPS, resulting in a disappointing Halos season. 2014 proved to not be any better, as his body betrayed him, playing in less than 90 games. Though his numbers were decent, they were unequivocally substandard pertaining to his contract. In the offseason, he was incessantly rehabbing, resulting in Josh's ambition starting to wane. It was apparent to those around him that the injuries were weighing on him, and as a result, he relapsed yet again. With Josh coming off 2 forgettable seasons due to injury and performance, as well as his addiction biting back, the Angels moved on, trading him back to Texas despite having 3 years at just under $90 million left on his pact. Despite a spattering of good moments in the latter years of his career, he was ostensibly finished. He bounced around on and off Texas's roster until he finally hung up his spikes in 2017. In summation, man, Josh Hamilton had a career for the ages, truly. His talent was undeniable, as he showed when healthy and sober, posting a career 28 WAR, 290 average, 200 tanks, 700 RBIs, and a 129 OPS plus. He was a 5-time All-Star, 3-time Silver Slugger, batting title champ, 2010 ALCS MVP, and 2010 regular season MVP. His career will forever be maligned and tagged with the what if moniker because all his off-field misgivings that we delved into extensively. Unfortunately, in my opinion, Josh could have been an all-time great and a first-ballot Hall of Famer had he stayed clean. But obviously, we will never know. Anyways, y'all, I hope y'all enjoyed. If you did, smashing that subscribe button would mean so much to us here. Thank you. Y'all be good. Peace!